Right, this is a short documentary about failing to find a partner or being able to get sex right through my whole life. The only sex I've had in this life basically is being sexually abused as a child and raped and whatever else, many times. Let's go back to a previous life psychic reading that I had 20 years ago. Right, this psychic said that I was a good-looking female in my last life, that the men would get turned on by. She said I was a really good-looking person, a beauty. Now, obviously, I can't verify the facts of how accurate this information is, or if the psychic reading is true, but that's what she believes. In my previous life, I was sexually abused many times, and had it very, very bad, apparently. I was never lucky enough to get anyone in my previous life. And in my early 20s I died tragically. When she gave me this reading, she said that this life's going to be much more better and that karma's going to pay off for you. But unfortunately, it's a vicious circle. There's never good news. And the next thing I've got to look forward to is when I'm dead, I'm going to have to be sexually abused as a child again, which would mean blue murder 3 lives in a row. Now, I've turned against Jesus Christ on sexual grounds in recent times, and I've never been straight with Christ, apart from a 2 to 3 year period where my life worsened when I went to church. So obviously I see Jesus as a devil, unfortunately. So being 45, it's very difficult to find anyone that's not a single mother, because I shouldn't be told to go with a single mother when I've had all my chances put through by enemies taking it away from me in the past, or deliberately turning people against me. And this is like people in their teens and early 20s, and they made them all pregnant, and it's too late today. In actual fact, the teenage girls I should have been with years and years ago are not only single mothers, but their children are single mothers as well. So that just says it all, doesn't it? Well, anyway, unlike the 1990s, when I didn't ever get anyone, they moan about the age gap today. Because of the new society we live, if there's any more than 10 years difference in age, there's a problem this day and age. Going back years ago, it wasn't like that. They made allowances for people that have been abused as a child, and allowed the age gap, or let someone go with someone that's really hot, if you know what I mean. Or that's the term that they used back in those days. Today, you're treated as anyone else regardless of the situation. People don't give a damn. So, the reason I've turned against Christ is because Christ got his feelings out of me, forcing the ins out of me and forcing me to enjoy suffering sex of being molested as a child. So obviously through people who abused me as a child, and I'm not letting it go. It's not the fact that I'm not letting it go, it's the fact that this has happened and I've not been able to get anyone at all in my whole life. So we've got this waning issue, which I've mentioned in the past, because they bring that up with setups now and again when I'm walking out and about. And I've explained that in Deep Depression, My Life Story Pack number 1, which goes back to when it went into digital form, would have been about 2005 onwards. There are many sheets that I've written in the past. I chucked away about 300 sheets, and when I chucked those 300 sheets away, my life got worse, because I prayed to God in that time period to see if things would change, giving it the chance, and didn't. It just got worse and worse. So that's why I've never been straight. You had that escort that robbed me. She deliberately did a few sly moves, wasn't sex as such. Take that away, I've had nothing at all in my whole life. Yeah, so it gets better and better. So so all my enemies that give me trouble, or give me trouble right through the years, and I've also been mistaken as other names like Liam and Savan, and very rarely I'm mistaken as someone called Nathan as well. All this trouble I've had all my life, all these years, all the trouble has always been because of sexuality. 99.9% of all trouble right through my whole life, and all the problems, is because of sexuality. And I've got to hold that against God as well, because I've not had anyone yet. The other thing I want to moan about is the people in my age group are quite literally double the age of people that sexually abused me as a child of the youngest people that abused me when I was a child. At the time that they would have been, at the age they would have been at the time it happened. There's more than a couple of people as well. So, obviously there's not many people in my age group that are good looking. Men hold out their looks better, that is for a female attraction type, to a lot older age. Women did used to look quite good, going back in the 1990s when they reached my sort of age. But even, 50 onwards, even back then, they started going to negative attraction. Because you've got like raw skin, they have the sort of facial appearance of dry sickets on the floor, or like if you look at a stone or a rock, it's not smooth as sort of that sort of looking, or a cold stone, I don't know how to word it, that sort of skin type in my age group, where it doesn't happen so much with the Asians or people in other countries. They hold out to an older age, but because people have unhealthy lifestyles in this country, they age a lot more quicker, and many people are obese. Going back to the 1990s, you didn't have this dry and sarcastic appearance, or this very social appearance that women have, with that sort of very sarky sort of look, or got the lip moved down to one side, or they pose as single mothers with the accent of the modern society sociables. I don't take to that sort of person anyway, with that sort of accent. So there's not going to be a very good relationship if that occurred anyway. I want someone who's younger and has not got that previous past sexual relationship issue. Now, I have spoken to a person on dating. This is a genuine person, but this person's not interested in me because of the age gap. And I've got into a few personal questions. She's aged 20, take into account I'm 45, and I asked her how many times has she had sex with a man. I said if it's alright to ask that question just to get an idea. At first she wouldn't answer the question, but then she let me know, and she said she must have had about 800, something like that. And obviously she said she had unprotected sex as well with these people. So if someone's 20 and done that many people, look how many people they would have done in my age group. That's definitely going to be someone that's HIV positive or got sexual diseases. I mean, I've got to be told to go with a second-hand person for what's been taken away from me in the past. I've been in trouble with the police for specific graffiti going back to 2006, which involved Hinkley Point power station, which was done on sexual grounds. There's a few other things as well. Obviously I haven't done this since, but all these years later I still don't have anyone, and I can't take, I'm not being funny, but they're uglier and rougher looking, in rougher skin, than people that sexually abused me as a child at the time it happened. That's not going to do anything at all in resulting or compensating for the mistakes that God has caused in his creation against me. I mean, it's happened in my last life, and it's going to happen again in my next life before I'm old enough to have anyone, and then I can't guarantee that I'm going to get anyone in my next life, because I've only known 7 people, females that is, that are single. This is more like directly know them, that have been single in my whole life, including school days, up until 2025. Now those people, they didn't like me, they didn't go on with me. They just preferred like the rougher type back in those days, so I didn't stand a chance. One of those people actually got into a domestic violent relationship, and she's the one that's a single mother, where her daughter is also a single mother. So they can't do it that way either. So these people that I knew in the past, they can't even provide their daughter for me because their daughters are single mothers as well. So in actual fact, not being funny, but in my age group, they're very, very on the close edge to looking like a granny. And no one wants to go with a granny, do they, for first ever sexual relationship. Last year, I was walking past a spa shop at West Coker Road, and I was looking at a lady aged 37, and she told me that I was sad not to look at her, and told me her age, and said, "That's really sick, you're really sad." And I'm not really that much older either, 45, 37 to 45. Well, 44 at the time, sorry. Next problem. I was looking at like a same area, 36-year-old. Again, she gave her age. It was about 6 months before the 37-year-old. The 37-year-old was a slim person. This one's like it was me, well, I'd say fat, but it's not your negative sort of looking fat. It's like really soft skin type of lady that's 36. Obviously she's going to have someone, she's going to be a single mother, but she's one of those sort of standout beauties, or what people name as the hot type, or whatever they call it today. Yeah, she had a right go at me. She had a row, and saying, because I looked at her in a nice way, you know, sort of, I thought it wouldn't be a problem at 36, but it is. And even on dating, if we go back to this is in the early days of when I was reusing dating, so it would have been November or December 2025. Yeah, I've had people in their mid-30s or just over their mid-30s actually moaning about my age, or telling me that I'm sad, and telling me that I'm supposed to be with people over 40, and the younger ones are getting really nasty and saying that you're sicko if you don't go with anyone over the age of 40. So that means basically if anyone's had sex with anyone under the age of 40 for first ever sexual relationship, or to lose their virginity over, that makes everybody in the world a sicko, doesn't it? If they want to work it on that principle. Anyway, going back to 2005, that's when I first used dating sites, and I wasted £10,000. That completes all costs, travel costs, dating agencies, dating sites, and also the scams. And there's been about 3,000 scams. Many people, even when I was in my early well, it would be about 25, so that I messaged an 18-year-old on Zoosk, and she told me, "Oh, you sick." Well, I won't use the language, but she got really, really nasty about it. Yeah, so yeah, that's that. Between 2014, I was still using dating sites in that time period until about 2018. But 2014 onwards, I started to socialise, go to places to try and make friendship, to see if I could find anyone. But the problem is that everyone is in a relationship wherever you go. In that time period, out of all the places I went to, there was no one single. Even the children were in relationships. So, yeah. Now I went socialising right up until November 2025. Socialising. So I've been doing that because that's when I really got onto dating. Sorry, getting a bit confused on what I was saying there, because I'm losing my touch, because I'm not with it today, because I've had a lot of vodka that I drank last night, and I smoked a few. I'm trying to sort of give that up, but I'm not succeeding at the moment. But it's hardly surprising. I wouldn't have gone on to the vodka or whatever from the beer that I was doing just over a year ago. But the thing is, my life's getting worse and worse, and at my age, that's all I got to look forward to. I mean, I've messaged 6,000 people on dating sites between when I reused the dating sites again after I gave up in 2018. I started using them again in November 2025, right through to now, which is April and early May of 2026. Out of those 6,000 people I messaged, there's under 100 people that have replied, and each and every one of those has asked me money for food, asked me money for cards, top-up cards for various things, or have tried scamming me for payment for travel costs, and some are claiming that they're local to here and need the money to get up the road, basically. And then they mess up because they put gas or the dollar sign or a different currency sign, so there are actually other people in different countries trying to scam, claiming they're in the UK. And it also worked with abroad as well, wanting flight costs, and I have been scammed for that before now, with no one turning up, and then I don't know, I was blocked. And I will say something else. Between 2005 and 2018, out of the people that messaged me in that time period, I did not get one basic looking person or one sexual looking or hot type of person ever messaged me on any of those dating sites in that time period. The only people that actually messaged me or contacted me were those munter types, those really ugly types that have the facial appearance of raw skin, flaky skin on some people, or that raw chest, or where it looks like you've got shingles all over your face. That's, you know, like the disease shingles. Is that sort of appearance only. And even when people have tried chatting me up, which is very rare, I think it goes back before 2010 and before, where you had the occasional person come up. Right through my whole life, the only type of people that have asked me are those, again, the same type, that sort of groggy looking appearance, grubby appearance, unhygienic looking appearance, rough skin, raw looking. And no offence, but these types of people actually go against my interests when you look at those types of people on dating sites or whatever, because they're into different ways of life. They like watching telly. Well, I'm more of an active person, like doing things. The average person that likes my sort of things is definitely not the blonde, the sexual types that everybody go for. So I'm going to be truthful about it. When it comes to blonde people, they're not into what I'm into. It seems to be the brunette type, or the long black hair type. I wouldn't say they're bad looking. Some of them are actually quite sexy looking that are into my types of interests. But the thing is, they moan about the age gap today, so there's a problem. So you've got some that style their hair. Sometimes I like have stringy hair on the front that goes from one side to the other side, where you have like two sides, and like style their hair. That's one type that seems to be into the type of interests that I'm into. That covers quite a lot, or 3/4 if not more, when I list what I'm into on dating sites. The other type are like the gothic type. They seem to match in with a lot of my interests, but there are also a lot of those type that seem to not as well. So yeah, so they make the main sort of two types. The type that looks like Britney Spears, when she was young, obviously she's got a different appearance today. You know, the pop singer Britney Spears. There's a couple of people like her appearance are like me, but that is about it when it comes to the blonde. That'd be the nearest possible type when it comes to the blonde community that likes me. And I've also, when I was at Bideford on a day out with family once, going back about 15 years ago, whenever it was, there was a Britney Spears lookalike about the same age or just a bit younger than me at that time, and she actually smiled at me and looked at me as if she liked me, which is extremely rare, because most 3/4 of the blonde community don't like me and never have, right through the whole of my life. So anyway, the other thing I want to mention is setups. These setups are controlled around me, or are constantly causing problems wherever I go, whatever I do. it's always been on sexuality, and it's to nail me as a sad person, is to tell me that they're going to rip me to pieces, destroy me, or take my life away, or just going to make my life a living hell, and then making the suggestion that they're going to stop me getting anyone, which they have, because they've caused road closures, diversions, they've brought the country to a stop on governmental or specific events that they need to do or whatever, which has completely messed up any possibilities. And on one occasion where I went to meet up with a basic woman, they took the public transport service off for a specific time period, and also when it was back on, there was road closures in that area, and this sort of thing's gone on hundreds of times as well, going back before 2016. Also, you've got the newspaper industry and the media. So what happened on one occasion was they had scaffolding up around my place at the Fathers for Justice event, and they're making suggestions of breaking in or whatever, and to destroy you or to hit you off or whatever, and doing it on sexual grounds as usual. And that was in 2008, but I can't remember what time period that was. That, and there's also been enemies that have waited outside for me to go out on occasions where I couldn't go out, on days that I went to meet up with people on dating sites, and then they put me down as a time waster. But at the same time, there could be scammers. It's unknown, it's all unknown. But what I will say, there's never been a meet up, there's never been a date, and there's never been sex. So yeah, the next thing I want to mention is they brought out music tracks in the mainstream media, such as Lady Gaga, Just Dance, and because it sounds like it says Justin is a mental case, that caused a lot of trouble in the time period that came out as well, and that caused a load of people to turn against me, and also caused women that half know me, not know me properly, young women, younger than me, to cause them to turn, and they get the same idea because of this specific music track and many others. There's hundreds, in fact. I don't know about today, not in the last 15 years, but before that time, there was a hell of a lot that went against me. And they've even made tracks telling me to have sex with people that sexually abused me as a child. The next thing I want to mention is this loud bike issue. I think it's June the 8th, I can't remember, of 2008. It was happening before then, several years before then, but it wasn't to a point where it was noticeable. I was just writing it down occasionally or here and there. But for some reason, like it was all suddenly fixed or controlled from that specific date onwards. The date, I mean, not day, I think I said day. Half the bikes on the road each and every single time, right through, has been fixed and tied to an erection. After the year of 2015, there was a 3-year period, 2 of those years, which included while going on holiday, walking about or at home, they caused every single bike on the road of that whole year, without other bike passing, each and every bike was controlled and tied to an erection, and not one single bike passed where it wasn't tied to an erection. The following year, there was only about 30 to 40 bikes that passed that weren't tied to an erection, and then the year after that, each and every bike on the road was tied to an erection that year as well. And then obviously it's the same again the following year. When we came into the lockdown period, all this action started to collapse that was set up against me. So there's a 6-month period where all this setup was making the suggestion that they found out, or they know that I haven't done anything wrong, and the action just suddenly dropped in the 6-month period. In that 6-month period, I was actually walking into sexual looking people, and people even in their teens, their high teens, were actually smiling at me as they were passing. But before there was any, and I also saw people older than my age, even older than my age now in fact, with people as young as people in their early 20s or late teens, even back in just before the lockdown. I don't know what's happened in the last few years, but the age, whether it's just a small minority, I do not know, but I don't know how it works, but that people do seem to moan about the age. That whoever's been in a relationship with people that are younger are very, very lucky to get the massive age gap, because they don't allow it. Or the people I come across in life don't allow it. Anyway, when we get to the lockdown period, the loud bike was still continuing, I will say that. I ended up walking into this gem on a daily basis on the beach. Got to a point where I was speaking here and there, but because people were mistaking me as different people's names and causing trouble, she was never been right. And when I moved here, I moved to Thornhouse in Yeovil. 1 week after I moved there, I decided to leave a letter asking if she wants to go for a coffee or whatever. And she said, she phoned me up because I left my number, and she basically got nasty on the phone, saying, "What are you doing preying on a 30 or 31-year-old woman?" Saying, "You sad, so sad and all this and that." He said, "You just put your life in the grave," and saying, you just, and all that sort of stuff. And so initially she said she was going to phone the police for a letter that even staff at supported housing thought would not cause offence, but it did. Anyway, that was all over. 2 months later, someone phoned me up pretending to be a single person and told me that he wanted to smash me out on the railway track at Highbridge. And obviously this person saw me in Bridgewater, and it came very close to having to call the police. Now, whether that's connected or to do with something else, I do not know. Yes, going back to the loud bikes to erections, after we come out of the lockdown, all this initial force that was being set up, that collapsed in the last 6 months before the lockdown, was suddenly stepped up 4 times heavier than what it has ever been before, with every day being record breaking with the amount of setups. There have been bad days where these setups have been bad. Once was when I went to Bridgewater Magistrates Court. They stepped up this action in a really nasty way, or telling me to have sex with people that rape me as a child, or taking the piss out of me in other ways and telling me I'm not going to get anyone. But they were done at specific times, and there's been times where this force that's against me has deliberately forced me or stopped me getting to appointments, causing me to miss appointments, or stuff like that as well, where this action has been so heavy, like causing transport to break down, massive traffic jams, to force people in my direction to almost attack me or whatever. There was a time period where they wanted to push me into work. I can't remember the year now, I think it's around 2016 area. They wanted to push people into work, even people that are mentally ill. Well, I found out later on that if I went to this specific appointment at Weston-super-Mare, I would have walked into a person someone else walked into that got attacked with a weapon and nearly lost his life. So that's what would have been in my path, and I would have passed that person because of the time that I would have had to been at that appointment. But I managed to cancel that because I contacted a social worker explaining the situation of sexuality, not getting anyone, and the fact that things are just going to get worse and worse if this happened. I said I don't mind working, but not unless I've got a partner. But obviously this is too late now, because I've sort of thrown my life away in some ways. It's too late because I'm too old. No one's going to allow it. If they do, it'd be remarkable. But I will never be forgiving Jesus Christ under any circumstances. Right, since 2024, every loud bike on the road has been tied to an erection, right through to current day. When I first moved to Yeovil, the first 2 years that I moved to Yeovil, the bike issue was actually eased, and I managed to get erections without a loud bike. However, the setups were down on me like the setups were on me hard as nails, and the setups are persistent on a daily basis. Every single day. You can't go out. You can get thousands of setups some days, but it's mostly in the hundreds if it's walking around in Yeovil. But if you go out of town, obviously it goes into the thousands. It's on a daily basis. Every day, including Christmas Day. Let me give you a bit of an update on the issue I was talking about earlier. I said I've known 7 people in my whole life, and that's it. Direct people. I mean, there's others as well, but we're talking direct people I know properly in person. I know better than other people out there. Only 7 people between when I was born to the age of basically 2025, so I'm 44 or whatever. Yes, so between July 2025 to January 2026, there's actually another 7 people that I got to know, but all of these people have turned against me. 2 of them have got in a sexual relationship, and one of them's already been been made a mother, and she's the youngest of the lot. Right, so the first person was on a horse near Barrack. She started chatting to me, friendly. Saw her again not long after, and she's in a relationship. To what I could gather in the conversation, they only just got together. Right, the next thing is I see a lady at Bridport, and because it was before they changed the times, where the bus times on public transport is 5:15 now, last bus. Back at the time that I was speaking to her, it was 1:15, and I couldn't risk the issue of speaking to her, so I said I'll meet you there tomorrow at a specific time. When I got there the next day, she wasn't there. I didn't see her for a couple of months, and then she was in a relationship with someone, because she told me she was single at the time. But that's not the case now, and that boyfriend has put me down as a sicko, and he appears to be unstable. So it's not very... so I avoid that person, or those people, if I go to Bridport. Right, the next person is just someone I started chatting to. She seemed to be quite friendly. Didn't really go anywhere on the conversation. This was on the bus. She was a lot younger than me, but she did say she'd like me. She did say she was single, but the conversation didn't really go into that as such. A month later, if that, I saw her again, and she's in a relationship with a boyfriend. Right, the next thing is there was a lady at Misterton that went to Mosterton on the bus. She had 2 puppies. No, the bus was late, so I was at the bus stop. It was about 20 minutes late, or even later than that. So we got into a conversation. She seemed to be sort of happy about the conversation, and she was looking at me in a way where you could sort of see there's like glittery eyes. I don't know how to word it. Where she like is it, but in a light-like way. And she sort of, when she got on the bus, she sort of dazzled into my eyes if I looked at her, as if sort of drawing attention to you, and like in a nice way. Saw her again on the bus. She recognised me and saw me. I didn't get to the point of asking if she's single. This person's quite a lot younger as well. Yeah, so she got on the bus and got off at the same place again. Didn't see her for a time. The next time I saw her, she was with a bloke in his mid-40s, something like that. But I can't 100% say it was her, because I saw her from the bus and she was walking. But I can't 100% say for certain it was her, but it did look like her. The following time, I see someone in their 20s with this person. But again, it's not guaranteed 100% it's the same person. But I do know what this person looks like, and I would recognise her. They were holding hands, so I'm assuming that she's in a relationship, but it's not certain, it's not confirmed, not on that one specific person. Right, we come into the days of where Lucy, this is a lady at Mind. I mentioned the burning problem because I get a lot of burning at my place, and her surname goes to the that issue. It's like I'm feeling of like intense, raw, like cat claw scratch burn marks right across your body that occurs in my apartment. I'm not quite sure what's causing it though. It's been going on for 3 years. Going back to when I was at my old place, I was getting these gritty dry eye problems, and this is one of the reasons I had to move to Thorn House, because I couldn't do nothing about what's causing it, or whatever was causing it there. And obviously at this place it's burning. You did have burning as well at my old place, but it was not as intense as what it is here. So yeah, this Lucy. So she liked me for a time, but unfortunately she reported me to Mind for something I put on Facebook, and it turns out that she doesn't really like me, not even as a friend, so that's the end of that person. Now there's another person. This is another new person. Yeah, I saw her in January. Saw her on that one day. This is Ella. In February, she got a boyfriend, and it's just been revealed to me that she's had pregnancy tests, and she's going to become a single mother in the near future. Right, go back just before that, because that's the last person out of all the people that I've mentioned. There's been no new people since. There's been no new friendships since. And I'll get to the church in a minute. But there's a person, actually there's a neighbour I asked as well, going back December last year, which is also another thing that's true, including in 7. I thought there's another person, but it's not on the tip of my tongue. But anyway, they're the ones that have fallen through. So you've got 7 people that have never liked you between the age of 0 to 44, and then 44 to 45. Basically, you know more people between July 2025 to January 2026. What you've known in your life, you sort of, the most amount of women you've known that are new or are new in that time period. So it's quite a shock really, because 7 people in a matter of 3/4 of a year, and the other 7 people is it takes 44 years. But those 14 people are all through. So there's got to be someone new. I'm not religious because I've turned against Jesus Christ on sexuality, and I'm not going to forgive even if I get anyone, because even if I get anyone, it's only going to be very, very basic, and it's going to be a very used person because of my age, and they won't allow the age gap. So I can't forgive, especially when it's happened in my last life, and the fact I've got to face the fact that it's going to happen again when I'm born into another life. So I can't let it go. I'm just not going to let it go. What is insulting, those people like the social worker type people, mental health team, whoever, whatever you want to call it, staff or whatever, they've even suggested, why don't you get a doll from an adult toy shop and shag that? And I thought, that's just an insult. That really is. And basically I told them that's not going to solve the compensation of the things that happened in the past. That's how small-minded people are today. And those that are single in authority, they wouldn't help you even if they were single. They don't give a damn. Even if they know the situation of what you've been through, even these people on the internet. It's a little bit different for people overseas, because they have a bit more respect and are willing to help. But the problem is most are scammers, and you just can't take the risk of the cost of how much it's going to cost them to come over into the UK. Then you've got all the other issues like visa and how much you have to pay to stay over, and where you've got to go in the UK to sort all that out. And obviously they have to find a job if they move into the UK, and it's all an awkward situation. So yeah, there's not much you can do. But yeah, the church. I want to mention the church. Obviously, like I said, I'm not religious, but I go there just to socialise. There's 4 different churches that I've been to over the years in Yeovil, the last several years or so. Out of those 4 churches, including the children, each of those 4 churches, everyone is in a relationship, and everyone appear to be a single mother under the age of 20 in all of those 4 churches. And I'm going to give you the names of those churches: the Gateway, the Elim, St John's Church, and the Fountain Church. 3 of those places get well over 100 people. The Fountain Church is less, so you get about 30 people. And I've even been to the, I think it's the Baptist Church as well, on 2 occasions going back a few years ago. And to what I can make out, they were all in relationships as well, but I've not been there long enough to assess that situation to see if it's true or not. Yeah, so again, I mean, some of these people don't even look legal age for sexual consent, and they seem to be single mothers. Going back last week, I saw about, this is in one day, and I'm not making it up, I saw about 400 pushchairs being pushed by people under the age of 20, and a further 200 to 250 pushchairs being pushed by people under the age of 25. Now, I can't guarantee that I've seen the same person twice, so the figure can't be 100% accurate, because I might have seen the same person loads of times while out, but in total that would have been about the equivalent of how many I saw in total. I didn't take much notice to see if it's the same person or anything like that, but that's how many pushchairs I saw on that specific day last week. There's one newer person that I've spoken to. I forgot about this person, but it's not someone I knew. This person doesn't like me anyway, so I didn't really count her in. And this is a person called Chloe, and she made that clear that she doesn't like me, going back to March with a piece of paper to tell me that she doesn't like me, doesn't want friendship, and saying, if you do fancy me, I don't know if you do or don't, but I don't want to know you, I don't like you, just stay clear of me, because I don't care, give a damn. So yeah, I guess you could count that one in, but it's not really irrelevant when it comes to that specific person, because it's just someone that's never liked me in the first place. When I'm talking about people that have spoken to me, I'm talking about people that like me, not people that don't like me, sort of thing. But it's worth mentioning her as well. So yeah, we're back to square one, because at the moment I've had to get rid of all the scammers on dating. There's nowhere I can go to socialise, because I don't know any places where there's single people. So basically we're at square one, at the age of 45, trying to find someone when you've not had anyone in your whole life. That's what God's done. God's completely messed my life up, and this is why I'm never forgiving. The older I get, the more difficult it's going to get, and it's going to be too late. You can't get prostitutes, you see, because they won't allow the age gap, and they're too far away. And the very few that are left are a couple of Asian people in London, but they've got the same restriction as everybody else. And the prices are different to what they used to be. In the 1990s, I wasn't looking for prostitutes or anything like that, and I didn't even know any. But what I do know, by word of mouth, on the television, on the radio, wherever I heard it, is that you could get a prostitute for about 50 quid, even a really sexy type, as they call it, or a hot type of, a teenager, basically, of what people would have gone for in those days. Also, back in the 1990s, they wouldn't have moaned about the age gap. They would have gone with people older than me, that wouldn't have been seen as a problem. But it's a bit different time. They've got a different way today. There were even child prostitutes going back in those days as well, which obviously you wouldn't see today. I started to look at them because I was failing on dating around the 2014, 2015 area. But the restrictions were tighter. One, they won't give you raw sex. You've got to have protection, and some will only give you a blowjob and that's it. So the way sex is controlled is changing as well. Where back in the 1990s, they would just give you raw sex just how you want it. But things have changed, and the prices have gone up as well. So before the lockdown, obviously I've never been lucky enough to get any of this, or I've not had the money at the time. But if you want a grubby looking type of person in my age group, anything from £30 to 60 quid an hour. If you want a basic looking sexy woman, it can be anything from £200 to about £500 an hour. If you want one of those really, what they call the hot type of women, the teenage type of whatever, you're looking at anything from about £800 to £1,400 an hour, and you'd have to wear a condom. Yeah, after the lockdown, prices went up. In actual fact, half the prostitutes didn't exist anymore. And I mean, it's a very slim few even back then. Yeah, after the lockdown, you're looking at the cheapest this is. If you want raw sex without a condom, you're looking at £6,000 per hour. That's the cheapest. And there isn't really white people on these duck prostitutes. Most of them are Asian. The ones that are white, that are doing prostitution, are the grubby type, the ones that are really ugly, which are trying to pose as a sexual person when they're not sexual, basically. It's done in that stupid way as well, where it's small-minded, where they think they're sexy and they're not, basically. So, yeah. I was speaking to my brother, and he said if you went, because he lives in a different country, in Amsterdam, he said if you went there, he said you'd find someone in 6 months, someone that you can actually fancy, and it'd be, you know, and he said it wouldn't be like it is over here. How true that is, I don't know, because I don't know the country that well. So I can't say for sure on that. Yeah, so going back also to the 1990s, people were helping people who have not had anyone, who have been sexually abused, find someone, or they would give them someone, or do that, but they don't do that anymore. And they were like, people in like authority would also provide that wax doctor help for that person. And I use that term because that's an old saying that was used in the 90s for a woman that's sexy, that would give you sex to compensate you for a bad past or anything like that. But people don't do that today. Everyone's mind is different, and everyone works in a different way. Regardless of what you've been through, you're treated the same as everybody else by 99.9% of the population in the UK. Yeah, so obviously I'm trying to find someone. I mean, people are leaving it too late, you see, they're taking it away from me or stopping me to get anyone. And with the media being put against me, and the music industry and whatever, or timing lookalikes to people that have killed children on telly that resemble my face or whatever, or, you know, it's not helping the issue of people liking me in the streets. So you know. And when it comes to dating, these Africans especially, or those that need food, are actually rubbing it in, saying, you know, regarding the issue of my past, there's basically saying, don't care, but we need food to live, you know, sort of, when I find out that they're scammers and all that. That's all they care about. So it's a waste of time, that is. I mean, there's other things I could cover. There's a lot of stuff. I mean, people used to be able to get someone in one night, just going out somewhere. This day and age, it's going to take at least a year before you can get to know someone, if they would go with you or whatever. It can't be done in one night anymore, because people work, their minds are a bit buckled today. They're not so, they follow, their minds are in a honeycomb, if that's the right word to use. They can't see beyond that. They restrict you. They've got to do it in that sort of modern way, with that sort of dry and sarcastic acts and all that, social acts and all that. It's got to be done in the way of a relationship takes place, very gradually. It's got to be like that, if you get what I'm saying. I mean, going back to the 90s or before, you couldn't do this today, but people would smile at you if they were single. So, you know, you get a lady pinch your ass, you know, or whatever, or, you know, a lady in a car would say, do you want a lift? Which often means that where a person wants to get with you or whatever. That doesn't happen today. We're in a different time. And even if you did that today, you're likely to get your head kicked in or anything like that. Or people would turn nasty, aggressive, or it could affect other people in the streets. It's the same with the age gap. They're going to moan about that as well. So basically, you're buggered, basically. So if you want anyone, you're buggered. There was one person, I think is a prostitute, going back to 2016, obviously. She couldn't do me for several reasons, and too far away and whatever. But she said, you've got to go with someone you know, or go with family or relatives. The problem is, all the people in my family and relatives have got someone, including the children that are over the age of 11, are all in relationships when it comes to family or relatives or whatever. So that's not an option. You're literally at square one, looking for your first ever sex partner at the age of 45, and that's where I am at this minute in time. So that's all I can say on this recording. Thanks for listening.